I think it's important to just kind of look at it as, you know, if you're teaching kids anything, you know, and they're anywhere from, you know, 3, 4, 5 years old up to, you know, high school or anything like that. The general idea is if you learn something in school, even though you're a kid and you might not like it, when you look back on it, you tend to think, I learned this in school, so it must be okay. I hated it when I was 8, but now that I'm 30 or now that I'm 15, I learned it in school and I realized it must be okay. They probably weren't teaching me stuff in school that is bad for my health, right? That's why it's so important to us to have this in the schools. And so I think you have to be sensitive to the age you're working with, the amount of time. One of our board members who's a principal at a local high school here, kind of going back to the question earlier a little bit, but you know, when I asked, somebody else asked him, would you work with an organization where they were going to come in and for 6 weeks you had to have these kids sit here for 30 minutes every day and do a bunch of, you know, pre-tests and post-tests and study it and evaluations and all that kind of stuff? He said, no way. And then the question was, well, why do you work with the meditation initiative then? And he said, because they'll show up here, come into the classroom for 5 minutes, get our kids to be quiet, have them take deep breaths, and then they leave. That's it, right? It's really that simple. We complicate it. And so coming back to the little kids, you know, if you have a classroom and you're a teacher and you want to work with little kids, have them take 30 seconds before a test. Close their eyes, take deep breaths for 10 seconds, right? I don't know, a few months back I did the TEDx Youth San Diego, and you got, you know, 600-800 kids. Terry, you were there. And it was beautiful. There was a little breakout session. And there was a high school kid, I forget where he was from, and his teacher. And I didn't know this until after, that was his teacher sitting next to him. And the teacher told the high school kid, you can do this. Or in essence, I think the kid said he was going to do this before the exam. And the teacher thought it was great. And then I touched base with someone from there later, and they said that now before every exam, they take a minute or 2 minutes. And the kids all sit there at their desks. You know, if you got 40, 50 minutes on an exam, your mind's going to wander and get lost easily for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Are you really going to lose from taking a minute before you start the exam, putting your pen down or pencil down, or now it's probably a keyboard, and just closing your eyes and taking deep breaths for 30 seconds? You're only going to benefit from that. But you, depending upon the environment you're going into, will figure out, you know, do we put our hands on our bellies? Do we, you know, with kids? I mean, the session here with the kids at High Tech High, the questions were amazing. You know, these were real live questions from real 15, 16, 17-year-old kids going through life of how they can use this in their life. And it was beautiful to see, you know. Should have filmed that. Should have filmed them. So I wanted to touch on this a little bit. Again, a lot of these these are the questions. When I say frequently asked questions, these are the questions that when we bring this into a newer audience, this is what we usually get asked, right? The meditation is done, you know, and I say, pay attention to how you feel now, and any way you feel now has nothing to do with what I said, it has to do with your reaction, everything else. How do you feel now? And everyone says, I feel great, I feel calm, I feel peaceful. Let me remind you that you might get somebody who afterwards says, I feel terrible. Somebody once said, I feel like there's 1,000 knives chopping up inside my head. Just because we sit still and close our eyes for a few minutes doesn't mean you're automatically going to be this peaceful person, right? You might feel worse. Be aware of that. Don't think you're going in there with some power or authority to like create this perfect environment for everybody. You may have created a situation where now they're very emotional. Now they've sat with what's really going on. And now ultimately, that's probably good. But that's not our place to say. It's not our place to tell. It's not our place to determine. Just be careful in certain environments, you know, places we work with, you know, psychiatrists, psychologists, whatnot. We're very careful about recognizing what silence can do to these individuals. I mean, I've sat with people who've murdered, who've raped, and who've done some of the most, you know, horrific crimes you can imagine. I'm not there to judge them, to teach them, to view them, right? That's my suggestion, is just lead the practice. Yes, and then yes, yeah.
So based on that aspect of having that pain, obviously that's like ripping the Band-Aid off and leaving the sore raw and wounded. Do you have resources that when you go in to be able to refer them either to a school counselor or somebody within the systems?
It's not, so the meditation initiative, website looks great, right? Thanks to Anokai who built it. You know, there's a lot of people, everything's wonderful, we have these nice forms. We don't have an office, we don't have a staff, we don't have salaries, we don't have money, we don't have resources.
When
right?
I say resources, I'm talking like if you were in a school and a child said that, you know, then making sure that they get connected with somebody in the teacher.
There will always be, I shouldn't say this, but you can, I would suggest, right? So when the kid said, I feel destructive, teacher's 2 seats over from him, right? That's not our responsibility.
Because I know from a counseling position, if anybody ever says that they commit suicide, you have to.
Absolutely.
So you don't, okay.
That's not, again, if this is where you kind of fall into judgment. If you're sitting there with a 15-year-old group and a kid talks about suicide, then as an adult, my hope is that you would be smart enough to let a teacher or somebody know that this child has just mentioned suicide. But again, chances are, and my suggestion is just make sure when you do it, there's a teacher, there's somebody else there. That's another thing is, and again, the environments are different, but depending upon the situation, you want to be very careful that maybe you don't want to be alone. But again, every situation is unique. You know? Sitting in a women's prison where they have a history of sexual abuse might not be the best place for a guy to walk into and be alone, based on what they could say. And I don't mean that in any sort of, you know, stereotypical way, but that's the reality. So these are things that I am mindful. I've said the word mindful today once. These are things that I am mindful of as you go into these environments, right? But I think my suggestion, again, to be successful at just getting people to sit and breathe, don't try to take on all these hats that you're a counselor or teacher and you have some authority. That's my suggestion. You can take it or leave it, right? You can turn this into some big thing and go get rich, right? Go for it. Yeah, question. It's not therapy. Exactly. It's not therapy. I don't see this as therapy. We may view it as therapy. We may feel that the effects we get from it is helping us therapeutically and it's helping us holistically and we're feeling better. But our approach is not, we're not there to provide therapy, right? A lot of the environments I work in, military being one of them, there's psychiatrists, there's psychologists, there's all kinds of social workers. A lot of you here I know are social workers. A lot of you here are teachers, right? I mean, we really do have an amazing, like, I'm just grateful and honored that everybody was here because we have an amazing group of people in this room who, and all of you I know are doing amazing work, touching the lives of thousands and thousands of people. And hopefully this is just one little piece that maybe you're missing, or not missing, but that you haven't been doing, or that you haven't been successful at doing. That maybe this is one more little piece, but don't make it anything greater than what it is. Yes?
So when you preface the meditation beforehand, explaining that it's not going to be magical and majestic and whatever, but say that the child's comment isn't, I'm going to kill myself, but simply, I feel upset now. Do you have any word that you say, or what, or you just leave it at that?
I'm careful with boundaries in a sense that, you know, when you're with adults, if you have a 45-minute class, sure, it opens up into conversation. But I'm very careful, especially with kids, to where it's not our place. And again, if you're a social worker and you lead this with your kids, then yes, it probably is your place, right? To then address that. But to me, my view is that this practice, getting to know after meditation that you feel angry, or getting to know after meditation that you feel happy or destructive, that's enough. Let that person, the child, know, and adult know that, wonderful, you now know what you feel like. You feel angry. And what are you doing with your anger? I'm just trying to put myself in a real situation, right? And what are you doing with your anger? Oh, nothing. I'm sitting here. What do you normally do with your anger? Oh, I go punch a wall, or I yell at my brother. Well, now you know you don't have to do that. That you can be angry and just sit with it for a couple minutes. You know? Does that help? We complicate this stuff. We make it so medical in terminology, and when Paul gets here, he's going to do all of that, and it's beautiful. But I'm glad I don't know any of that stuff, because I can keep it really simple. You know? I'm going to attempt, and please cut me off at any time to ask questions, but I'm going to attempt to walk through these briefly. Where can I go to meditate, right? It's a question that's always asked, where can I go, right? What I tell people is, you can Google meditation. You'll find a million places out there to go meditate, right? What I always say is, when you Google meditation, for the most part, you're going to find a place that's either tied to some sort of spiritual or religious place, or you're going to find something you have to go pay for it. And from our perspective, we don't deal with either. So where can you go meditate? You can go anywhere you want, and you can also just sit there on your couch. You don't have to go anywhere, right? So where I have to go, we get lost in this whole idea of making it, again, a much bigger thing, making it an event. Meditation doesn't have to be an event. It just has to be sitting and breathing. I've been meditating for a year. How come my mind still races, right? And that's where I usually tell the story of, I've been doing this for 17 years and my mind still races, right? Your mind is always going to race, chances are, right? If anyone has figured out how to stop the racing mind, then beautiful, right? But chances are your mind is always going to race. Will it slow down? Absolutely, right? There was a kid, he was an intern. We were doing meditation every week at KPBS. And he was an intern, 20-year-old kid. And he said, I was at a party Friday night, and he'd been doing meditation now 3-4 weeks. He said, Jeff, I was at a party Friday night, and somebody was, hitting on my girlfriend, saying something like that. And I realized I wanted to hit the guy and get into a fight. And he said, and I realized I should stop and go do meditation. And I said, so what happened? And he said, I hit him. You know what my response was? I said, congratulations. And he looked at me like I was nuts. He said, what do you mean, congratulations? I hit the guy. And I said, yeah, but there was a moment. There was hope where you realized, I don't have to hit this guy. I could go do something else. You didn't, right? On that front, you failed miserably. But at least you realized there was another option. If you keep this practice going for another 3 weeks, 6 months, 5 years, maybe you'll realize, I'm going to hit this guy. I could walk away. And maybe you'll walk away. So I think this whole expectations, and again, in the afternoon we'll get into the script part, this whole expectations of expecting that just because you've been doing this for 3 months or 5 years, expecting all of a sudden your mind to be calm and still and slow and peaceful, don't. It's my suggestion. Don't expect that of yourself, and don't expect that of other people that you're sitting with. Right? Everybody is at a different place with their own life and their own practice, their own experiences. Allow everybody to be at that place. Right? I touched on this earlier. How do I get somebody else to meditate? The best way, do your own practice. Right? Is meditation the same thing as religion? I touched on this a little bit as well earlier. As everybody likes to point out, nowadays just about every religious, almost every religious practice has some form of meditation in one way or another in it. That's beautiful, right? I don't go anywhere near it. Don't talk about it. Don't touch on it. It's completely irrelevant. If you have your religion, beautiful. Keep it, right? Doesn't matter what religion you are, right? Christian, Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, whatever, and anything else that I forgot, right? Are you calm? Are you quiet? Are you clear? Right? And can you slow down and breathe? Take that into whatever religious practice you have. Or not. That's up to you. Right? Yeah, Sam.
A response I've developed if someone asks, is this religious, is this Buddhist, Christian, a very simple response I deliver is just, this is a human practice.
Human practice, beautiful. And this is Sam, I pointed out earlier, goes into San Diego Central Jail every week, and someday he'll probably run this organization. So thanks. Thanks for all the coffee, too. Can I meditate lying down? Right? What do you guys think? Can you meditate lying down? Yes, but
it doesn't last very long.
You might fall asleep, right? So a lot of people who have trouble sitting still, right? They always ask, can I meditate lying down? Somebody asked one time, if I'm washing my truck, is that meditation? Karate Kid style, wax on and wax off. If you're washing your truck and you're thinking about all the junk in your life, then that's not meditation. If you're washing your truck and you're actually just washing the truck, sure, because that's what? Concentration and focus. But if you're washing the truck and you're thinking about how miserable your truck is, or how dirty your truck is, or who threw that on my truck, that's just washing your truck. If you're laying down and you're snoozing and falling asleep, that's not meditation. That's laying down, right? A lot of the environments I work in, some of them choose to lay down because they have severe physical disabilities, severe physical back pain, and just sitting in a chair is painful for them. So they will lay down, some of them. And to those who lay down, I talk even more during the meditation practice. because I want to make it very clear that sleep is not meditation. Meditation is not sleep, right? There's a difference between the two. So can you meditate lying down? Absolutely. Can you meditate when you're walking? Absolutely. Can you meditate when you're eating? Absolutely. Every single thing you do ultimately is a meditation. It's a concentration and focus on the present moment. If you concentrate on washing the truck, what are you not focused on? Past and the future. And when we focus on the past and the future, how does that tend to make us feel? Not so good. Which is actually kind of sad, because it'd be nice if we could all just focus on the past and the future and be wonderful, right? But for whatever reason, yeah.
I've heard that even watching TV and sometimes could be sort of a form of it, because you're not thinking of the past and the future.
Yes. Yes. The only thing, like movie, TVs, reading, all these kinds of things, often people say that meditation is thinking nothing. Good luck with that, right? You're not going to think nothing. If you're thinking nothing, your time's up. Right? And you don't have to worry about meditation anymore. Because even when you're sleeping, you're thinking. So it's definitely not about thinking nothing. And the one thing I want to point about the TV or movies or things like that, if we are watching or doing those things, we're kind of getting lost in the story of that. Right? If we're lost in the story of TV, yes, we're not sitting there thinking about how angry we are, but we're also not necessarily present with everything. So we just want to be careful. You know, not so much, you know, for all of you advanced practitioners, but careful with those who think, well, you know, I just sit on the couch and watch TV, that's my meditation. That's probably just sitting on the couch and watching TV, you know? So I want to be very clear on the difference. Is there a CD I can get for meditation, right? This is stuff, these are the questions I'm asked constantly for years, right? Sure, there's lots of CDs on meditation. Again, you can Google meditation, you'll see lots of stuff you can download. In a way, it's beautiful, and in a way, it's also very, you know, whatever. But again, when we are asked, is there a CD? We say no. Because I've yet found a meditation that doesn't have anything to do with any sort of spiritual religious reference, or doesn't have anything to do with, you got to pay us money, right? So on behalf of Meditation Initiative, I say keep it free and keep all of that stuff out of it. But for all of you who have your own practices, again, you know, no offense to anyone, those are wonderful things, but if we're going to share simple practice of meditation, we just want these kids and adults to sit and breathe, right? And that's it. How do I keep from falling asleep? You know, when we fall asleep during meditation, that's really a beautiful thing to become aware of, because what does it mean? Relaxed, but not enough sleep. Again, I work in a lot of environments where these guys and gals, they don't sleep at all. They can't sleep. Hours and hours and hours, tossing, turning, meds, everything. They can't sleep. It always amazes me that I'll go in there and 3 minutes into the meditation, they're all asleep, right? So yes, it is a side effect of being relaxed. So that is beautiful. But just be careful, again, with the difference between sleep and meditation. And also, one simple way of to keep from falling asleep during practice, again, and that's part of why we brought this down to 5 minutes, right? Is that hopefully in just 5 minutes, you'll stay awake. But if it's really that hard for you, open your eyes, right? And if you start to continuously doze off, then maybe you need more sleep. And if you're not getting enough sleep, maybe it's because you're tossing and turning for 2 or 3 hours, flipping through every, you know, tweet and web page and everything that went on for the last 2 hours, and everything from 6 years ago and 6 months from now, and 2 or 3 hours later, we're still tossing and turning, thinking about the whole other world, other than just stopping and breathing, right? So try this before you sleep. And another thing with, you know, how do I keep from falling asleep? Don't make this the last thing you do. Meaning, my whole day is done, and now I'm going to do my meditation practice. My day is done, so now I'm going to go to my 7 o'clock meditation class. Don't use this like we use drinking a glass of wine. Well, I've had a long day, so I'm going to have a glass of wine, and everything's going to be okay for a few minutes, right? Start your day with this. All of that stress and anxiety and fear and worry that we've built up all day, if we would just take care of our mind in the morning, it'll be a little easier. And then maybe nighttime, we won't have this overwhelming demand to like have to relieve all this stress we built up all day. All right? Do it in the morning. That's my suggestion. That's another way to keep from falling asleep. And again, this is geared towards the audience of people that are new to this stuff, right? Also, never do meditation between like noon and 2 o'clock. That's the worst time. You know, we've done a few of these before in different settings, and I know that people sometimes leave thinking, well, wait a minute, I don't know how to lead meditation. And I said to somebody on the break, that's the easy part. Leading meditation is the easy part, right? Someone who was at one of I think the first training we did a few years ago just came up to me and said she's had a fear of leading meditation for these last few years because she didn't know how to be a teacher. And what she realized just from today is you don't have to be a teacher. If you can stop thinking that you're a teacher and stop thinking that you have some grand meditation background and that you have some great 30-year practice, right? If you can stop all of that, you'll do a phenomenal job. Let me just do this for demonstration's sake. Shout out, right? Where did you learn meditation? Just where did you learn meditation? Who wants to just start shouting them out? Zen Center. Books. Reiki. Sitting in the grass. Where else have you learned meditation? How did you learn meditation? Through what form have you learned meditation? Church? What was the other thing? TM. Transcendental meditation. What else? MBSR. Thanks, Joe. I can always count on you. Yoga. What else?
Running.
Say again?
Running.
Feldenkrais. And I don't know how to spell that, but we'll put FC. Is that okay? FK. That's even better. FEL. Say again? DEN. Thank you. What else? Recovery programs. Where else? Acid. I'm going to stop there, right? Because we're getting into dangerous territories, and I'm out of the box, Xavier. I'm sorry. So when it comes to our approach, and I keep talking about our approach because my understanding is most of you here want to bring meditation somewhere, and you'd like it to be accepted and appreciated and welcomed and approved and practiced. My suggestion, this is all today is my suggestions, is for the most part, forget all of this. And those of you who maybe learned it somewhere and didn't shout it out, forget that as well, right? Forget it. This is your practice. This is what you do. This is what's worked or not worked for you. And this is beautiful. I'm not saying abandon it. I'm not saying pretend it doesn't exist. I'm not saying pretend it's not real or that it didn't help you on your journey, right? But when it comes to leading other people, abandon that. That's my suggestion. Let everybody be introduced to meditation with their own way, their own view of just sitting and breathing. And whatever they take that into, great. I know there's a lot of yoga people here. There's a lot of Reiki people here. There's a lot of people who are into all of that. And that's all wonderful. But there's a lot of circles that you lead meditation with, right, that won't be okay with that. Learn to be okay with the people who aren't okay with it, if that makes sense. Learn to stop trying to convince people of any way whatsoever. Again, these are just my suggestions. Continue these practices. They're all beautiful for the most part. I would, definitely cross off that one. Even though I said I wasn't going to get into morals, but since we are on film, I'm not going to leave that up on the board because that's really going to do some damage, and I would stay away from that. But that's as much as anything I'll get into on my personal moral views. Forget all this stuff. Just create a space for people to sit and breathe. All right, so this I'm going to fly through really quickly, and then we're going to get into the practice portion. Who we are, the mission, you get it. We provide meditation for everybody for free. Started in 2009, incorporated as a 501c3 in 2009, I should say. Since 2009, we've sat with 14,881 people, roughly, give or take a couple. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but have never asked anybody to come lead meditation anywhere. Board of directors, we have an incredible board. Gail's here. Barbara, she's a social worker. She was the director of clinical services at Jewish Family Services for many years. My father, who was beautifully in attendance and even stayed awake this entire time, he's an accountant, so he watches over the millions of dollars we have. Dr. Paul Sargent, who you all saw. David Shredder is a principal at Albert Einstein, and then myself. The mission, you've all seen it. I'm going to fly through these really quickly. These were back in the days when I was really concerned about making sure people understood that what we were doing was right and okay and well received. I was, put all these together. Here's a letter from County of San Diego Health and Human Services that says, yeah, you're doing good work. Here's a letter from the Monarch School that says, thanks for working with our 8th grade kids. Again, for those who don't know Monarch, it's an incredible organization, homeless teens. There's a letter from UC San Diego Medical Center. I was going up there every week sitting with the doctors and nurses and staff on whatever 7-minute break you could get. And they all had their pagers and phones and everything. It was a really fun experience for a couple years. So a letter from UCSD Medical Center, San Diego County Sheriff's Department. For years we've been in the correctional facilities. KPBS, wonderful relationship there. This I thought was beautiful. A law firm, just going into a law firm on a Saturday afternoon where they wanted to offer meditation for their staff and some of their clients as well. These are letters from kids. Most of this stuff's up on the website or Facebook or whatnot. Many of you maybe have seen it. But this is the essence, 8-year-old kids, 9-year-old kids writing about their meditation experience, 14-year-old kids writing about their meditation experience, how it's helped them, deal with their relationship with their mom and not get so angry when they don't land a skateboarding trick. And, these are beautiful. I should spend more time on these, but, you can read them. Again, another letter from Monarch. And then the client tracking report, which Mike's not here. Mike's been just one of our wonderful volunteers over the last couple years and supporter for probably 4 or 5 years. And he's really been tracking everybody we've sat with. So here we are, 2009, 2,400 people, 2010, 1,700, 2011, 2,800, 2012, 7,800. So about 14,000 people, just since 2009. And that brings us to why you're all here. Why train the trainer? Again, I know I ran through the TMI pitch quick, but I'm not here to talk about TMI, rah, big deal, so what, right? You're all here for many reasons, but from my perspective, from our perspective is there's a whole county, city, state, country here of people that want to meditate. How do we reach them all? As a board, we've sat around forever thinking, how do we reach everybody? Do we fly people around, and how do we get to everybody? How do we do that? I think this is the way, right? So I thank all of you for being here, because this is also teaching us that, wait a minute, all we have to do is empower all of you and make you feel comfortable leading a meditation. And as Gail just mentioned, 50, 60, 70 people, however many here, if you go lead meditation once a week for the next 5 years, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people are going to be introduced to meditation? Beautiful. So really, I thank all of you for being here to make this happen. The amount of requests we get to lead meditation, we can't fill them. Your meditation experience is not important. I've stressed that a lot, but I'll stress it again, right? I've often said that somebody who's a school teacher, somebody who's a therapist, someone who works with people, someone who's really good at relating to people and has no meditation experience at all is often better, in my opinion, at leading meditation. Because they don't have to, as Gail mentioned, unlearn a lot of this stuff. If you have some 20-year practice, you're going to have a really hard time sitting around with a group of 5 people and telling them just to close their eyes and breathe. Because all that stuff you've learned and trained and taught yourself, you want to throw on to them and share with them. I don't mean throw on in a bad way, but you want to share that with them, right? So if you've never done meditation practice, beautiful. But this is the wrong audience for that. That's all right. Still a great audience. Again, unique style. The script. Okay? You all have a copy of this. So what we're going to do now is, everyone here know how to read? Perfect. Because at this stage, if you know how to read, you are fully qualified to lead meditation. Not certified, not authorized, not signed, stamped, and delivered. You're not getting a certificate, nothing. But you can lead a meditation and probably not harm anyone. So there's 2 ways to do this. I think what we're going to do is we're going to break up now. And I was kind of just looking at this about 5 minutes ago, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, if we got about 6 or 7 this way, if you split right down here. So if you just look at the people that are this way of you and the people that are this way of you at each table. So 1, 2, 3, basically 4 1.5 rows. So this is your group, you guys right here, right? This is your group, you guys right here. You all follow, right? Get together. You're going to sit, and you can either turn your desks or whatnot, because we're going to, we're getting into the last hour here. So if you want to make a mess of the desks and turn them and sit here, if you want to go find a place on a nice little comfy couch over there, you can find there. Get with your little group. And what I want is for one person, whoever wants to do it, I want you to lead the meditation. And I simply want you to take the script. It's very self-explanatory. Prior to meditation, I want you to read that. Posture, I want you to read that. I want you to lead the meditation. If you want to do the after meditation part, you're welcome to do that as well. That's maybe a little expanded and not always so necessary when you do a meditation practice with people. But I want you to just split up in your little groups, and we're going to take probably about 30 minutes, and I want you to, basically 2 or 3 different people to lead you through a little 5-minute meditation practice. So, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that, walk through the script briefly, and you're on your own. So, please go. Thank you. So we're going to begin the wrap up here, and hopefully, in 15 minutes we'll be out of here. In case anybody has anything they need to do. A couple things I want to point out before, I just want to make sure I touch on these, and then I want to hear some questions. But when you lead meditation, you're not trying to hypnotize them. And you're not trying to put them to sleep, okay? So I know we all think like I need to get in my little quiet meditation voice and I need to be all gentle and calm and quiet. I work with some pretty intense individuals. And if you start talking that way to them, you're not going to be there, right? Recognize the environment you're in. Okay, somebody asked a question of what if I only have 3 minutes at the start of a meeting? You don't have time to tell people, gently close your eyes, rest your hands on your knees, keep your back straight. I recognize for the practice purpose, perfect. But understand you don't always have that time. So, you can run through, you're not going to float away, nothing's going to happen to you, you're not going to figure anything out, your mind's not going to stop, you're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. We're simply going to close our eyes or leave them open, take 3 deep breaths, done. You can run through that stuff relatively quickly. You noticed I did that. The instruction part is just there to get you to the idea of just sitting, right? So just keep that in mind as you begin to practice, because not everybody's going to want to listen to you for 7 minutes introduce meditation. They're done. You've lost their attention, right? You might only have 3 minutes total, so you don't want to waste 2.5 of that introducing it. Research, and then I'm going to get to your questions, but UCLA, Harvard, University of Wisconsin. If you want to understand research, everything that Dr. Sargent was talking about, and also see research on it, UCLA, Harvard, University of Wisconsin. Dr. Richard Davidson has spent his lifetime basically meditating the effects that meditation has on the brain. But those 3, and there's more out there, but those are 3 great places. If you just Google UCLA, Harvard, and University of Wisconsin meditation research, you'll find tons of stuff out there, right? It's not going to be necessarily average lay people running around today, but in another 30 years it will be. So I'll just leave it at that. Dr. Richard Davidson. Yep. Yes, University of Wisconsin. So questions, comments, feedback on the practice that you all just did in leading meditation that came up? Yeah.
I was uncomfortable with the little post-meditation script.
Okay.
Where we were sort of telling them that it's not fun, that most people feel because that seemed to me like a directive, and if their experience was not that.
Right. Then scratch it.
So we can play around with it.
You are not certified, authorized, you're not getting a certificate. The Meditation Initiative, don't take this the wrong way, has nothing to do with you. Right? This is not, I have this certification and now I'm certified by TMI to train. None of that. I was going to say this at the end, but none of that. These are just suggestions.
Well, that's kind of scary from your standpoint.
Why?
I mean, if we go out representing ourselves as having gone to this seminar. Don't.
Perfect. You can say, I went to a workshop put on by the Meditation Initiative, right? You don't have to lie about that. You don't have to hide that. I've just said very clearly to you, don't use that as some sort of, a cap in our hat that says, I went to a workshop and now I'm authorized and certified to lead meditation. Doesn't work that way, right? This is not a yoga certification where you do this and then go through a number of hours. And I love yoga. I know I'm bringing that up a lot, but I just want to clarify that this isn't that. This isn't yoga certification, then you've got your hours and now you're certified, right? I'm not worried about it at all. In fact, from my opinion, again, on behalf of the Meditation Initiative, I feel a heck of a lot more comfortable with all of you leading meditation now than I would have at 8:30 this morning, right? But it's not about on behalf of the Meditation Initiative. Does that make sense? And it's a great question and things that other people probably would have been sitting with along those lines. I want to come back to that actual part, though, and kind of give some answers as to why that's there. Does that make sense, this point? Yeah. Because if we think we're going to use this and say, okay, well, I went to a workshop, and now I'm qualified to go lead, what qualifies you? Not this guy, right? I don't have any certifications, qualifications, nothing. I just have years of practice and a crazy busy mind that I've learned to deal with. I didn't get into this stuff because I was always quiet and calm and peaceful. Trust me, my parents were here, and ask anybody who's known me my whole life. I got into this because my head was a mess and I got tired of being angry and pissed off at the world. And I realized I better do something about it, right? That's the only certification I got, is dealing with my own madness, right? So, but let me address that point specifically when we look at the script. Say the line you were talking about again? Because this is all very strategic. I don't want to, you know.
Most people respond quietly, peacefully.
Right.
Then the next one, fine, but.
You're at the.
It's not easy. It's not easy, not fun.
Oh, that part. Meditation's not easy, not fun, but it's free. It takes nothing more than a few minutes of your busy time, your busy mind. All of this stuff is geared towards getting people to recognize that this is a practice. And a lot of people tend to have this view that meditation is one thing or another. So yes, I recognize when I say to somebody, it's not easy, it's not fun. I've basically told them, this isn't easy and this isn't fun. I feel comfortable, based on the way we do this practice and based on the people we sit with, that when I say this isn't fun and this isn't easy, I feel comfortable saying that. What I don't want people to think is that this is some fun escape, that this is something that they're going to sail down the riverboat and have some crazy, mystical, magical tour, right? Maybe I should walk through this first, and then that might actually alter questions, and this might not even have any questions if I go through this. I'll run through these quickly a little bit, but prior to meditation, right? Nothing is going to happen to you. All of this prior, during, and post comes from this recognition that there's tons of stereotypes about meditation, and we want to cut through them all so people can just sit, right? You have no idea how many people have never done meditation, and I say, have you ever done meditation? No, why not? I can't do it, right? I can't do it. My mind won't stop. You know what I always say to them when they say my mind won't stop? It's not going to stop, right? It's very important that people understand that nothing's going to happen other than maybe you'll realize you're angry. Maybe you'll realize you're happy. Maybe you'll realize you're sad. Maybe you'll realize you hate this. So it technically is not even correct to say nothing is going to happen. But what that's there for is to get them to be comfortable with, dude, you're just going to sit, right? So that's what I mean by nothing is going to happen. You're not going to float away. This is there to clearly tell them you're not going to float away, right? Because a lot of people, kids especially, they think of meditation, they think of certain parts of the world, and they think of certain, you know, TV shows, the Avatar, and they see these people meditate, and they're like, oh, we can float. No, you're not going to float, right? If you do float, great, but you're not going to float. I mean, that's cool, right? You're not going to float away. So a lot of this stuff, you will not think nothing, you'll not stop your mind. A lot of this stuff is there to just make the average person who's never done this feel comfortable with sitting, right? That's it. You won't have any mystical, magical experience. Again, if your audience is newer to meditation, they have some preconceived idea of what meditation is. This is there to shatter that, right? To let go of any expectation of what it is other than just sitting and breathing. And whatever happens when you sit and breathe, great, right? So you could, if you're not comfortable with that line about this is not easy, you don't have to say it, or you could say, this might be easy for you, this might not be easy for you. I mean, you can, you know, these aren't written in stone, and you don't represent the Meditation Initiative, right? No offense. I mean, and we're happy to work with you and help you, but that's the whole part of this, is you're not here to then be like lassoed in and now we own you and we're going to put you out to the masses of people. No, right? You can do whatever you want with this, but my gut tells me you're going to do good things with it, and you can tweak this how you want. You'll not solve all life's problems in a few moments of silence. Often we think, well, if I just meditate, everything's going to go away and be fine. No. If you got a lot of problems in your life and you meditate for 5 minutes and you try to stay focused on your breath for 5 minutes, did that change any problem in your life? It's all still there, right? The difference is we didn't look at it for 5 minutes, right? And can anyone sitting here right now see what's on the wall hanging behind you? No. Why not? Well, you can, because you just looked at it. That's our problems, is that we look at them constantly. And if we stop looking at them for 5 minutes, then when we come back out of meditation, maybe we'll look at that problem a little bit differently. Maybe the painting on the wall that we hated, maybe we'll like it. Who knows? The painting's still on the wall. But let's just take a break from looking at everything. There's no right or wrong way to practice. You're simply going to sit and breathe. Again, this is there almost as like a protection for our, as Gail said, we have no philosophy. Our philosophy is we have no philosophy, right? That's the philosophy. Really simple. Meaning we're not sitting here saying this is the way you should do it. This is your practice, you should do it this way, or this is your practice and you shouldn't do it that way. We are not saying that at all. Expect nothing from the experience, right? Everybody's going to have some experience from their meditation practice, right? But if you're dealing with stress and you're using meditation to deal with stress, and you're stressed out and you sit down and you say, I got to get rid of my stress, I got to get rid of my stress, I got to get rid of my stress. What are you focused on and guaranteeing? Stress, right? So if you're having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, just sit. Don't think that this is going to get rid of your bad day. All you're going to do is focus on your bad day. So don't expect anything to change. These are things that help the average person feel comfortable sitting and breathing, in my experience, right? Posture. Posture is important. The whole thing with posture, very directly, is us cutting through this idea that meditation must be sitting with your legs crossed on a cushion, holding your hands in certain positions. Does all of that exist? Absolutely. Is there anything wrong with all of that? Absolutely not. But does the average person who's never done meditation necessarily want to sit on their floor and cross their legs and hold their fingers in certain positions? Definitely not. A lot of environments that we go into, you tell them to do that, man, you're never going back. Right? So again, our population is the beginners, not advanced practitioners, as I like to call them. So posture, just be comfortable. If you have to lay down on your back because you have bad back problems, great. Just be comfortable. I encourage people to stay awake, which is why I tell people, you know, you probably don't want to sit in your meditation practice like this. Chances are you're going to fall asleep, right? But if you just kind of keep the back straight and the feet flat on the floor and the hands rested, you're kind of more at an attention. So it's bringing people to a physical posture that maybe is comfortable with them, but for them to find their own level of comfort with their posture, not for us to say this is how you must sit, right? Keep the back straight. Often I know I always add with the back straight that if you do get into meditation practice and you sit longer, right? When we sit and we start to hunch over, cuts off circulation, we're tired, everything, we start to fall asleep quicker. If you keep the back straight, you're more likely to just kind of stay awake. Feet flat on the floor, eyes closed, and somebody brought up a great point that in the script, which will change, eyes closed, mouth closed is comfortable, but what often we will say is eyes closed or open, whatever is comfortable, right? So a lot of populations, you know, not comfortable with the eyes closed. Open's fine, right? In fact, we live our lives with our eyes open. So my personal view, which I try to stay out of, is if you've never done an eyes open practice, try it. Because how do you live your life? Eyes open, hopefully. Mouth open or closed. Again, I should really change this a little bit, but mouth closed if comfortable, meaning open or closed, either one. Breathing in and out through the nose, scratch that. Don't tell people how to breathe. Right? That's my suggestion. Tell them to breathe comfortably. Well, there you go. Most important, breathe comfortably. What do you know? Start with taking 3 deep breaths. So, and then it kind of goes into the pieces that are said during meditation. And the pieces that are said during meditation are meant to be so generic. I mean, you could be sitting in meditation and every 30 seconds say, Domino's Pizza. What does that do? but it makes you hungry. Other than that, it does two things. Wakes you up if you're asleep, or reminds you you're lost in thought and tells you to come back to the present moment. So I don't want what's said during the meditation, at least in this script. There's no need to give that so much thought. There's no like strategic message behind what's said during the script. They are just periodic things to say to keep people on track from either falling asleep or coming back to the present moment. And you can adjust those, you know, that it's not, again, whatever you're comfortable with. And the after part, and I think I said this when we started, the after part here, yes, it's a bit lengthy. The one thing I do want to say is for an audience that's newer to this, helping them understand that however they feel after is not because of anyone other than them, I feel is very important, right? The way they feel is not because of meditation. The way they feel is because of their reaction to meditation. You can sit with that for a while, but I'm just not big on, you know, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not big on telling people how they should or want to feel. Over the years, we've tweaked this, you know, periodically here and there to be as neutral and clear of all that stuff as possible, you know? Other questions on the script or your experience in leading? Things that came up, yeah.
This is my, I think, third PMI training.
Right.
And the first time I've actually gotten to deal with adults. I do it with my middle schoolers, but the script was so calming to have that as my foundation.
Nice.
Let me be present at it.
Years of doing it just in ways that were too complicated and continuously simplifying it, you know? And this is the first time we've actually, what we just did, we've never done that before. I turned to Gail when you all started and I said, wow, this might actually work. Meaning everybody breaking up into small groups and leading the practice. Like this really works, I think. So thank you all for, you know, having this experience with us. Other questions? Yeah.
If you have someone who's disruptive, like speaking, what do you do?
So when I go into a classroom, I tell the teacher, I ask them, please, don't be teacher for 5 minutes. Meaning they're going to be disruptive, they're not. If you spend all of your time and attention trying to get them to stop being disruptive, that's disruptive plus disruptive. You still have disruptive. So what I encourage and suggest teachers to do is to sit with their eyes, you know, closed or open slightly, and do the practice with everybody else. And what I will almost always say after, depending upon the situation and my, you know, sense of their sensitivity, you know, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but, and usually if it's a person over there who's being distracting, then I'll say something to somebody over here, and I'll say, you know, thank you to those of you who were being disruptive, because that gave us an opportunity to practice, because that's what happens in life. Our life is filled with disruptions, and this is your opportunity to be okay with it, you know? But I try not to let that one or two, you know, people or persons disrupt anything more than what their actions already are, if that makes sense. You know, if you're dealing with 7-year-old kids, yeah, they're going to be loud and disruptive and laugh and giggle and do all kinds of stuff. That's what kids do. But the 3 or 4 or 5 over here that are really into learning this, beautiful, you know? And now they're only 7, but when they're 15, oh yeah, I remember when I was 7, I did these meditation things and, you know, my belly would rise and fall and I felt okay. And now I'm 15 and I'm really angry and can really do something with this destructive nature I have. Maybe I should fall back onto that thing I learned when I was 7. Yeah? Any other questions? Yeah?
This may sound really minute and fussy, but
I love it.
I've often wondered when you're leading a meditation group, focusing on the breath, how does that work with people who have pulmonary complications?
I don't know. Or breathing issues. I'm not sure. You know, I would suggest if that's an issue for them, right? Tell them to focus on this bottle of water.
Okay, that was my
Yeah. What you shift your attention to doesn't matter. Bottle of water, shoes, your breath. When you focus on one thing, you're not focused on everything else.
If they express discomfort, right? Because it seems like you're asking them to focus on the most difficult part of their body, but maybe
Yes.
not. So
Yeah. You know, again, and Paul alluded to this earlier, you know, he said meditation is not for everybody, right? We're not knocking down doors trying to get everybody to do this. So if you're up against a few obstacles, it's just not the right person or place or time to do it, then it's just not the right person or place or time to do it. You know, I don't force this on anyone, you know. If somebody's not open and ready to sit and breathe quietly, then they're not ready, and that's okay. But are there other ways? Yeah, you could focus on other things, but that's not what this approach is about. This approach is, yes, sitting and focusing on the breath can be extremely painful at times, and it can be extremely beautiful at times, and everywhere in between, you know, and let everybody have their own experience. Yes?
Was the question about people with pulmonary?
Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would probably ask that to somebody who maybe has a meditation practice, but more of a medical background that, you know, might have a better answer than I, because
Well, I have,
there you go.
I have asthma,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I've had to struggle with in swimming. You forget to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and so it is, if somebody who has a chronic, you know, a pulmonary problem, it is good for them. It's just have them focus less time, and you do have to spend time. It's like you're stuck in the middle. You can't not focus on it, and yet you have to focus on it. Because if you're trying to swim and your head's underwater, you can consume a lot of water. When your brain wakes up and says, breathe.
Right.
And so, you know, it's, you know, and there was somebody else in our group that had the similar problem, and I said, I know, just remember, you gotta make yourself, when you, if there's like a knee reflex, knee reaction that your lungs have, that you have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is good for that, because it makes you need to sense when you need to pay less attention and when to pay more attention.
Gail, yeah, one last question and then I'll wrap up for sure.
Oh, I was just going to ask, and I asked this a little bit earlier, you said we talk about it later. So if we wanted to volunteer, we didn't have a specific place in mind to go into, do you need volunteers? Should we just contact you?
We'll talk about that later. I think when I said later, I meant like later, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the first two trainings were really about, hey, this is TMI and we think we're great and we're sitting with all these people and we need help. This is not about that. This is about empowering you all to find the place. But if you have no place, absolutely I'm interested in talking with you, because we do have such a demand for places, from places that want this, that I'd be more than happy, you know, from recovery homes to prisons to, you know, you name it, that want meditation on a regular basis, that we just don't have the resources, right, to do it. So if you're interested in that for everybody, even though I haven't taken that approach here today, absolutely, just let me know. And along those lines, right, and even though I said, and I answer very harshly, which I tend to do, right, I'm really not that nice, is I want people to truly understand that you're not certified or authorized to do anything but on behalf of Meditation Initiative, but my phone, email, everything, wide open. You have questions, you want us to work with you, to come out to your place, to help you guide, that's 100% offered and available, because we want you to bring this practice into your environments. So we want to work with you and help you, absolutely, yeah.
When we approach an organization wanting to do this, we cite that we had this one workshop with you, or we just say we want to offer this?
I say call me first. Yeah. I would just be very careful, you know, and I'll lead this into kind of my closing, and then I'll be here for a while. People want to ask questions one-on-one, happy to, but I really wanted to stick to 2 o'clock, so those who want to get out of here can get out of here. It jumps to the fourth one on here is ethics. What does that say? You are what? Not certified teachers, right? I would just be very careful about saying I went to a meditation workshop to lead meditation, because if somebody came up to you and said that, yeah, you would the average person would think, oh, well, then maybe they're qualified to do this, right? All I've qualified you to do is to sit and breathe, and you were doing that on your own. So I would just be careful about saying, well, you know, about making it about the Meditation Initiative. But if you have a place and you think that you on your own would not be able to do it, that you don't have enough clout or whatever to say we should do this, then contact me and we can talk about the environment, right? I can share with you the approach always. When anybody's ever interested, they contact the Meditation Initiative, they send a website, they send an email and they say, oh, I'm interested in bringing meditation in. All I send them is this one-page mission page. what I would suggest in that situation, if you have a place you want to bring it, send them this. 1-page mission page. Not the 5-minute script, not the workshop. Send them this and say, I went to a workshop on Saturday from 9 to 2. I thought this was pretty good. Maybe you'd be interested in bringing this in. And then what we could do, if you're that kind of, liaison or whatnot in there, then we can talk and work together about how you could really feel more comfortable doing it in that environment. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, totally. Yeah. Commit to leading a regular meditation if you want to bring this somewhere, right? If you want to keep kind of a consistent thing going somewhere, it's always best to say, yeah, I want to lead a meditation at this group or this place or with this client, so let's do it on a weekly basis. It's good not only for you, but for them, their consistency, things like that. So try to, if you want to lead meditation somewhere, I suggest leading it on a weekly basis. No attempt to make business contacts. I didn't even want to, and I'm glad we did, but I didn't even want a sign-up sheet here. Right? This is not about, from the Meditation Initiative perspective, and these are my suggestions for you. If you truly, purely, just authentically want to lead meditation, just lead meditation. Don't make it about anything else. If you want it to go well, that's what I suggest. If you want to go to lead meditation and then talk about all the other things you're doing in your own private practice and your own this and your own that, and bring a group of 12 people together to then turn that into business relationships, definitely don't use our name, right? That's not what we're about. If you want to do that, great. But I really suggest, if you want people to learn to meditate, just do it for the pure, simple sake of having them find the same sense of peace and calm that you also are finding or getting from the meditation practice. If you want it to be successful, I cannot stress that enough. Don't use this as a tool to get people into something else. Stay away from all religious references. Anytime, we've already touched on this briefly, anytime you bring it up, the one thing I suggest you never say, don't go into a place and say, this isn't religious. What have you just planted in their head? Religious. Why have I never had a problem with it? Because I've never said that. We just start and do the practice. I've sat with so many people who would have no interest whatsoever in doing meditation in their mind, right? And as soon as you do it, 5 minutes later they open their eyes, then they get it. But if you try to tell them what it is or it isn't, you're in trouble. Just lead the practice. Ethics, I've driven that home, I think. You're not certified teachers. Be honest with your practice, stay grounded. Again, this is our suggestions, our approach is just keep this practice simple. Gail touched on this beautifully as well. Be honest with your practice, keep a daily practice. I think you'll find the best way for you to kind of, sit with people is that you've developed your daily practice and that's really working for you, and then you're taking that into where you're going. If this is all brand new to you, then beautiful, and now like, wow, I can sit and breathe and be okay for a few minutes. And then that will start to impact kids and everybody else around you, Of course, I would close with that. To me, all of the meditation initiative has been one complete accident, right? There was no intention for any of this. There was no plan. There was no strategic mission, nothing. My head was a mess. I started to meditate. It made my life a hell of a lot better. I started to share that with others, and then here we are however many years later. It's really important on behalf of the Meditation Initiative that we keep it that way. You don't have to. You can do whatever you'd like, right? I can't tell anybody what to do. But that's my suggestion. Keep meditation simple, pure, free, because I think everybody in this room agrees that if everybody was a little happier, a little peaceful, a little calmer, that'll have a huge effect on the world we're in, right? As soon as you start attaching dollar signs to it, you start excluding people from it, or you start making it something much more than it is. Our breath is free all day long, right? It's your own peace, it's your own craziness, it's your own sense of calm, and it's your own madness. Don't pay people for that. Just sit and breathe and help others do the same, and that'll have a huge impact on your world and the world that you don't even know, right? So I'm officially done. Again, thank you to Sky and High Tech High for being here. the tables we can leave. The maintenance will take care of that. Thank you. But please take all the trash. Just a couple final announcements. All the trash. Please recycle the bottles. There's recycling things here. Xavier, thank you for filming, recording. Sam for getting all the food, and Gail for just being Gail, and anybody else I forgot.